Hi, I'm Kincaid. This is my informative speech. Here's my audience of three.
Hi.
Alright, for my informative speech, I'm going to be talking about the home buying process of buying a house in Colorado. I'm going to start off the presentation by giving a brief description of the lending process and what it takes to do that, the home buying process, and then I'll conclude some of the expenses that are associated with buying a house. Back in 2012, the Federal Reserve had a study that the average homeowner had 35 times more net worth than a renter, and that's a big reason why someone should buy in today's market, especially in Colorado. And I'm going to walk through the different steps it takes to buying a home. With my handout that I have here that I've given to my people with this presentation is the home buying process. But first, I'd like to start off with the first thing you need to do when you buy a house is talk to a lender and get pre-approved for a mortgage. Getting pre-approved for a mortgage is the first big thing that you have to do because they need to verify your finances, your credit score, and all those other factors that come into play when you want to buy a house. The main factors that are considered are your debt to income ratio, your credit score, and how much money you have available to buy a house as down payment and closing costs. However, if you're a first-time home buyer, there's different programs you can use for down payment assistance. There's also great loan programs for if you have great credit score. If you have above a 720, they have 1% down programs where they give you a 4% grant. There's also down payment assistance programs for lots of people like CHAFA and the LIFT program where they can give you up to $20,000 and they can use that money towards down payment and closing costs. So after you talk with a lender, the big next thing from there is meeting with your agent and going over the different things that you're looking for in a house. Whether you want to have a yard, how many bedrooms you want, how many bathrooms you want, what area of town you want to live in, and your agent will compile all of this data and all the feedback you give them, and they will put it into what we call the matrix or the MLS. The MLS is a software program that agents subscribe to use where all the listings in Colorado are put into this database, and then we refine the results and send it out to the client. So what will happen there is you'll get an email either daily, hourly, or whatever you want set, and these properties will get sent to you. From there, you can go in the program and you can search what properties you like, favorite them, and then us, the agent, will schedule to see those properties. So once we go see those properties, the big thing is, find one that you like, the area you like and all those different things. And when you want to move forward to submitting an offer, the agent will then sit down with you and we'll use a software to write up the contracts. All the contracts that are used are created by DORA, which is the Department of Real Estate site here in Colorado. They create all the contracts, we sit down, talk about price, deadlines, and those kind of things, and get the party to sign it. Once our party is signed, we will send it off to the seller's agent, who will review it to their client. If we're the only offer and they've agreed to our terms, we will go into what we call under contract. Under contract means that you are about to buy the house, but you have to go through this 30 to 35 day period where you go through some of these other steps I'll discuss further. If there's multiple offers, then there's a lot of negotiation between the buyer's agent and the seller's agent on how to get your deal accepted. If you're unfortunate and your deal does not get accepted, then you repeat the process of looking at properties and submitting offers. If you do go under contract, there's some main key deadlines that your real estate agent is concerned about, and that's important on the real estate side. The inspection is the first big thing that happens within the first week. The buyer will call inspectors and have them come out to the property and look at the property and the well-being of the property. They'll be looking at big ticket items. They'll be looking at the condition of the home, such as the roof, such as these other things, and they'll eventually give you a report that they send back to you in order for you to figure out what's wrong with the house, what's good at the house, and those kind of things. So from there, what will happen then is they will then be a negotiation between the buyer and the seller about what items they need fixed and what items will get fixed and will not get fixed. From there, the other big deadline that happens when you're under contract is what they call the appraisal. The buyer will pay the bank to send an appraiser out to the property to assess the home value. What they want to know is that the purchase price that you've actually got the property at is what it is actually worth. They don't want to give you a $400,000 loan when the property is only worth $300,000. So that's something that's a third party independent that they will come into there. After that, the last couple of big things for The real estate side is what we call the final walkthrough, which is the day of closing. You just go see that the property is still in its same condition, and that it is, there's nothing that's been missing from the property that you were expecting, and it's still in good condition that you were expecting. And then it's closing, which is where you meet with a title company and you sign documents in order to get the title transferred over to you, get approved for loan, those kind of things. And kind of concluding up this speech here is some of the costs that are associated with buying a house. You obviously have your down payment, which is typically ranges between 1% and 20%. You can obviously go a lot higher if you bring a lot more cash to the table. Closing costs typically are between 1% and 3%. You also have an inspection that varies between $300 and $500, and then your appraisal, which is about $1,000. One interesting thing to note is that to buy a house, you're not paying your buyer's agent any commission. That is something that's paid for by the seller. This is something that's nice, and it's not one of those scams where he gets you guys at the end. All the commissions are paid for by the seller, which is really nice for the buyer. There's no additional cost to be represented. So kind of in conclusion of this entire speech, the real estate process is a very linear process. It starts off with talking to the lender, seeing properties, and then it goes through these inspections, these appraisals, and those kind of things, and wraps up with closing. Thank you guys for listening to my presentation.